Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're exploring a deeply fascinating source text mapping the life and legacy of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We're going to trace this incredible journey from a historical figure to the absolute foundational spiritual requirement for billions of Muslims worldwide, looking exactly at what the source material has to say. So, here is our roadmap for today. We'll be covering the final messenger, the faithful orphan, the hijrah to Medina, core Islamic beliefs, and finally, an unmatched legacy.
Section 1. The Final Messenger.
The source text kicks things off by establishing a definitive theological baseline. It strictly lays out that believing in Allah without believing in Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is, well, actually considered misguidance. Now, you might be wondering, why is that? It's because the Quran, which was revealed to him, is viewed as the final and only existing scripture from God. So, following in his footsteps, it isn't just a recommendation, it's literally the defined righteous path.
Section 2. The Faithful Orphan. To really understand the messenger, the source takes us back in time to Mecca. When we look at his early life, a recurring theme of profound loss and resilience emerges. Born in 570 AD, he was a doubly orphaned child by age 6 after his mother Amina passed away. He was raised first by his grandfather, who then passed away when the Prophet was just 8, and then by his uncle Abu Talib. Eventually, at age 25, he marries Hazrat Khadija, who, notably, became the very first person to believe in his message. What's absolutely fascinating here is his character long before his prophethood. The text points out that despite growing up in a society described as lacking pure morals, his honorable youth and unobtrusive nature stood out completely. I mean, by common consent of the people of Mecca, he actually earned the title Al-Amin, which translates to the faithful or the trustworthy.
Section 3. The hijrah to Medina.
Now we enter the period of his prophethood. Before his public mission even began, he sought out solitude in the cave of Hira for deep thought and communion with the unseen Allah. And it was right here, in the still hours of the night, that the angel Jibril brought him the revelation, instructing him to reclaim his fallen people to the knowledge of their Lord. The source highlights a really profound contrast in how this message was initially received. On one side, opponents spent years offering abusive words and, frankly, literal death threats. But consider his response for a second. The text explicitly states he did not show hate. No, instead, he continued to love them, completely driven by a desire to protect those very same people from hellfire. But the hostility in Mecca eventually reached a breaking point. After 12 years of severe opposition and active assassination plots, Allah ordered him to migrate to Medina. This event is known as the Hijrah, and it is considered by the text as one of the single most important events in Islamic history. It was a massive turning point. In Medina, where he spent his final 10 years, Islam grew incredibly fast, receiving a massive welcome. This rapid growth gave rise to the Sahaba. These were the companions of the Prophet who believed in him, saw him with their own eyes, and ultimately died as Muslims. To really grasp the sheer scale of this growth over just a 23-year period of prophethood, I want you to consider this staggering number: 124,000. According to the text, that is the immense number of companions present at his last Hajj sermon before he passed away at the age of 63. He was eventually buried in what is now the second holiest site for Muslims, in Medina. Section 4. Core Islamic Beliefs. Moving from historical biography into some deep theological beliefs, the text underscores that following him isn't just about sticking to the rules, it's about profound love. Take this quote from Sahih al-Bukhari: "None of you will have faith till he loves me more than his father, his children, and all mankind." So loving the Prophet more than one's own family, and literally more than anyone else on earth, is a fundamental requirement of Islamic faith. Furthermore, the source explains a really fascinating concept. Muslims believe he is Hayatun Nabi, meaning he is still alive in his grave. And this is supported by a Quranic verse regarding martyrs, which actually says to not call them dead because they are living. The theological logic presented here is that since prophets rank even higher than martyrs, they too are undeniably alive in the spiritual sense. Because of this living status, there's an ongoing, active relationship today. Muslims constantly send blessings or salawat upon him every single minute all over the world. They say salam, the blessings are sent to him, and Islamic teaching states that he actively replies to these greetings. It's a continuous cycle. It's super interesting how this dynamic still maintains the strict boundaries of Islamic monotheism. See, while Allah granted the Prophet knowledge of the unseen, known as ilmul ghib, it is considered absolute disbelief to equate it with Allah's inherent knowledge. The Prophet's knowledge was granted to him, whereas Allah's knowledge is entirely his own, unmatched and completely unequal.
Consequently, while he is entirely a human being, the text states it actually nullifies a Muslim's faith to refer to him merely as a common or ordinary man. Due to his elevated status, he's respected to the greatest extent compared to all other human beings.
Section 5. An unmatched legacy.
Finally, let's zoom back out for a second to examine his standing within global secular history. The text cites the renowned Christian scholar Michael H. Hart, the author of the book The 100, who actually ranked Muhammad Sallallahu as the #1 most influential person in history. Why? Well, Hart attributes this to his supreme success in both the secular and religious realms, noting that his role in the development of Islam was even more uniquely influential than Jesus' collaboration in the development of Christianity. So, the crucial point to reflect on as we wrap up this explainer is this. How does a single individual's 23-year mission so profoundly fuse the spiritual and the historical? How does one life leave a legacy that seamlessly bridges the secular and religious realms, literally serving as the daily heartbeat of billions of people today? It's a massive question, and the history we've just unpacked definitely leaves us pondering it. Thanks for diving into this with me.